helps.
We're live.
Got it? All right. Yeah, we're live.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. Let me know in the chat if you can't.
Assalamu alaikum.
The kids here, as you know, this is a session for moms. You're welcome to stay, but know that we're going to talk about grown-up things, right? Okay, so my name is Sabria. Some of you already know I'm Sister Eva's assistant. And if you need help with anything, feel free to reach out to me and ask all the questions that you've got, and I'll try to help you, okay? So, as you already know, for this Ramadan program, we have partnered with this organization called Parenting with Allah by My Side. And from that organization, we have here today Sister Sara. Okay. I'm letting some of you in. Okay. Now, as some of you already know, Sister Sara and Sister Iram. Sister Iram will hopefully join us later. Sister Sara is a passionate educator, and she's the founder of Love Learning Online. She has over 16 years of experience, and she aims to help parents find qualified teachers for their kids. She has, as I said, she has founded Love Learning Online, and she's also a member of Parenting with Allah by My Side. And if you want to reach out to her personally, I will leave you the links in the chat, and you can, inshallah. Sister Sara, you are welcome to start.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us again. Thank you to the sisters that are talking in the chat, Sister Isma and Dr. Yasmin, Assalamu alaikum, and Assalamu alaikum to everybody else. Like Sister Sabri said, if you're a child, you guys probably want to leave and come back for the kids program later on this evening, inshallah. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about your conscience. Okay, so if you are a child and you want to join in, it is still a decent conversation that we can have with you, inshallah. Okay, so does anyone know what we mean by conscience? By your conscience, or your conscious learning, or consciously basically being aware of things, yeah? So when you're unconscious, when you're unconscious, okay, you're not aware of what's going on around you. So to be conscious means that you are available mentally, physically, spiritually, in all the different facets of your being. Yeah, that's a good word. Thank you, Sister Ghazal. Being mindful, being aware of what you're doing, where you are, how you're acting, and how that affects other people. Okay, how that affects you, how it affects your mind. So obviously, we're talking about the values that we have as Muslims, and developing the character of our children. So I think we've said before that children are born pure, mashallah, they're born on the fitrah, they're born on Islam, okay, and the parents have got the responsibility to then guide their children, right? Okay, and we lead and we guide our children with kindness, with mercy, with all those loving traits that we've been talking about over the last couple of lives that we've had, inshallah. And remember that the children are an amana for us as Muslims. So they are a responsibility. And it's our job to make them part of the ummah, inshallah, make them part of the I guess the greater, the greater good that we're doing as of raising our children is to make them part of the whole ummah, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, sisters who are just joining us. Jazakallah khair for joining us. So I'm Sara from Love Learning Online and Parenting with Allah by My Side, and we're talking about being conscious. I don't know why I keep saying conscious instead of, sorry. No, conscious is right. I keep saying conscience instead of conscious. Conscious is the right word. Okay, so we are talking about raising our children, inshallah, on the deen, and to help them to become hardworking and good Muslims, right? So the first thing that we need to understand is that children are born pure. Yeah, they're born on the fitrah. It's their environment, it's their parents, it's the people that they come across, their teachers, their friends, their family, that make them into their different beings, right? Their personalities develop obviously over time, but we're talking about Islamically, the children are born in a pure way. So for example, things like lying or stealing or talking back to their parents. These are all learned behaviors. This is not something that the child is born with, that ever since they were born, they used to lie, right? It's something that they've learned over time. And it doesn't mean that the parent taught them how to lie. Obviously, most parents don't teach their kids to lie, but it's about giving that example to them and what example they're getting from us that makes them think that it's okay to lie. That's the difference, right? So parents have got a huge responsibility. We need to lead our children and guide them with kindness and with mercy. Now, children need boundaries and children need responsibilities. These two things, the boundaries and the responsibilities, are going to build, inshallah, build their characters and help them to stay on that path that we are talking about, that we would like to keep them on, inshallah. So in terms of the characteristics, I was talking about children that do something wrong. If they do something wrong, we can't sit and blame them and say, oh my God, I've always known this child was a bad child. Ever since he was born, he was always doing these bad things, right? Again, we've got to take responsibility for our part in that, in either allowing them to behave badly or accepting their bad behavior, or maybe even on a much different level, modeling that behavior that they have now picked up, right? So for example, if you're the kind of parent that says to your child, yeah, don't worry, go to sleep, and then in the morning I'm going to give you a big lollipop, right? And then in the morning you don't give them that lollipop, that child is going to think that you lied to them, right? So as a parent, you're going to have to answer to that later, because you've promised them something, but then you didn't follow through on that promise. That basically means that the child is going to think that it's okay to lie. It's okay to promise people things without actually doing them. There's a funny joke about this part of the world where even the non-Muslims, the white people, they say inshallah to everyone, and the kids, they get really annoyed. They don't like this word inshallah, right? So if there's a group of kids, a class, for example, and they say to me something like, oh miss, we've been really good and we got good marks, can we get a pizza party at the end of the term? And I'll say, yeah, inshallah, that's a good idea. They get annoyed at me and they're like, no miss, don't say inshallah, say yes. And I say, what do you mean? I can't say yes, I have to say inshallah, right? Because the Islamic way, if Allah wills, then yeah, inshallah, we'll have it. In my mind, I feel like, yes, inshallah, I'm ready to do the pizza party for you guys. You're right, you've done really well, you've got good exam results, and I'm happy to give you that reward. However, the word inshallah Islamically means that if Allah wills, right? But the problem is that it's been used or overused so much that the kids now relate it to, I'm not going to do it. Because when people say inshallah, it actually means now, colloquially, in slang of this part of the world, it means that we're not going to do it. How sad is that? Right? So a proper word like that could really help the children to understand that everything is Allah's will. They've switched it from meaning what it actually means to something completely different, right? So there's these things that we have to be mindful of, as Sister Ghazal reminded us earlier, to be mindful of the way that we're talking, what we are showing the children and how we're creating that character in them, inshallah. Okay, now children, when they're young, they make loads of mistakes. And why do they make mistakes? Does anyone know why they make mistakes? Why do children make mistakes? Any ideas? I'm giving everyone a chance to answer. Okay. Let's go back to humans. Why do humans make mistakes? Right. Excellent. Thank you, Sister Ghazal, again, right? It's a part of the process of learning, right? We learn from our mistakes. So we make mistakes, but we also learn from our mistakes. And men, humans, okay, are people that make mistakes. We are sinners, right? Okay. And we ask Allah for forgiveness all the time about every little thing that we've done. At the end of the day, we sit there, we make dua, and we say, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, please forgive me for whatever I did, whether I did it knowingly or unknowingly, whether I hurt somebody, whether I said somebody that made somebody feel upset, right? So we as human adults, always need to ask for forgiveness because we make mistakes. So why do people have this thought that the children are not allowed to make a mistake? They're not allowed to do that. Why do we get annoyed at them when they're making mistakes, right? We shouldn't, basically. That's the be all and end all of it. We shouldn't get annoyed with them, right? Okay, they are learning, they are growing up. And if they were not children, they would be adults, right? So because they are children, because they are from age, let's say 0 all the way until they hit puberty, so maybe around the age of 10, 11, 12, okay, especially during that time, they will make lots of mistakes, right? So they might lie to you, they might steal, they might, hit their siblings and so on, okay? They'll do things. But at the end of the day, the parent's job is to forgive, right? Learn to forgive and forget and to move on and not keep on reminding them of their past mistakes, right? Just the way that we would like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept us and to give us forgiveness and forgive us for our mistakes, we need to do the same for our children. And when we do that, we enable them to learn and grow, right? But what happens is when you don't do that, then they start becoming ashamed of themselves. So we're going to talk about that in a second. Sister Isma said that they always want that we pay more attention to them. That's true. Yeah, children are very egotistic. They're very, they think about themselves more than the people around them. And they grow, it takes time until the age of, almost 25, actually. Children are still growing, or, humans are still growing and learning. Okay. But I would say until the age of about maybe 5, 6, 7, the children tend to play by themselves. So they do something that we call parallel play, which is playing near somebody, but they're not actually playing together. They're playing by themselves in parallel. Okay, so they're happy to be in the company of the other person, but technically they're playing by themselves, right? Because they're thinking about themselves and their pleasure. Later on, they'll start to learn how to empathize and how to think about other people. But especially from the age of 0 to 7, they're kind of always worried about themselves. Am I happy? Am I fed? Am I cold? Am I tired? Right? They're thinking to themselves. As adults, as mums, as dads, we're looking at them and thinking, are they all right? Are they hungry? Are they cold? Are they tired? Why are they crying? Why are they whining? Did they sleep late today? Did they wake up early today? Right? So we all think about all of these things about our children because we're thinking about, the third party. But the child is always thinking about themselves. So the child, for example, Sister Sabri will let you guys know that just before we started this live, my daughter, all she wanted to do was do her spelling. And she said that when I'm talking, it's mixing her spelling up. So as I was talking to Sister Sabri at the beginning of the live, I was, we were talking, and she said, you're making it hard for me. You're mixing my spelling up, right? So she was finding that difficult. So she wasn't worried that, mummy's got a live, it has to be silent in this room, mummy's got just this 1 hour that she has to do this. None of that mattered to her. All that mattered was, I'm trying to do my spelling and this lady is talking and interrupting me, right? Okay, so I had to convince her that she needed to leave the room. But again, she was thinking about herself. She's comfortable. She's been here for quite a while. I just came in 5 minutes ago. I was the second person in the room. So therefore, I'm the person that should move, right? So convincing her to move out of the room took me around 5 minutes, right? And that's why, unfortunately, we started a little bit late. But inshallah, I hope you guys understand that, children are not perfect. Mums are not perfect. I'm not perfect, and my children are not perfect. But we have to help them to understand what's going on. So part of her learning process is that when mum's on a live, I have to be quiet. Normally they are quite quiet, but they had to get a reminder today. Yeah. So our responsibility is to teach them as much as we possibly can. So when the child is misbehaving, when the child has done something wrong, we don't need to, really severely punish them. We need to talk to them. We need to explain what they've done wrong. Okay. Obviously, at a younger age, it might be more difficult for us to speak, and in a lot of detail, but we can say words like, sorry, I'm just reading. No problem, Sister Tola, you're very welcome. So with the children that are doing something wrong, okay, we don't want to make them feel like they are a bad child. Yeah. Okay. So the child is not bad. The thing they did might be bad, right? The thing that they did might be bad. The thing that happened might be bad. So the action, but the child themselves is not bad, right? Once people start telling you, you're bad, you're a bad child, oh, this child is my most difficult child, this child is the most troublesome, what happens is that they hear, okay, the only thing that they hear is, I'm bad, I'm trouble, my mum's really fed up of me, my dad really doesn't like me, and they hear all of this and they internalize it and they think it's true. Whereas I'm sure that you guys will agree with me, sisters and brothers, that we don't hate the child. We don't like the behavior, but the child we love, right? Because if you think about the lessons we've done in the last few weeks, is showing that unconditional love to the children, right? Okay, so we love that child. We want them to be part of the family. But when we keep on saying to them that they're bad, they do bad things, they're disgusting or whatever, okay, the child internalizes this. And again, as they grow older, even if you say to them, you're not a bad child, that will not, they've had this belief for years. It's one of those beliefs that has started from a very young age, okay, and it's something that's cemented in their mind. So it's very difficult to then convince them that they're not a bad child. Yeah, so this is a very important thing here to think about. The child doesn't have the intention of doing anything wrong. Okay, he doesn't want to do something wrong, but he's a child or she's a child. They made a mistake, and we need to help them to get over that. Okay, so I just want to come to a question here by Sister Salia, and Walaikum Salam, sisters that have just joined us. You're very welcome. So explaining, right? Okay, now when you say explaining doesn't work, it takes time to get the explaining to work. It takes time to get to the age, to get to a stage of that they will understand you. So one of my nephews, I think, is a good example of this, because he grows up, or he has like one side, he's with his mother, with his mother's side all the time, and then he's with his father's side. So I'm on his father's side. So they're divorced, and when he's with my brother, he acts in a very different way to when he's with my when he's with his mom. Yeah, okay. So he has to basically, he has two different sets of behavior to learn, two different sets of rules to learn, right? Two different ideas. What's acceptable on when he's at his mom's house might not be acceptable at his dad's house, right? So he's about maybe, you know, well, now he's almost, mashallah, 13. But when he was younger, when he was about 6 or 7, he would do things that are not acceptable in my side of the family's house, right? And my brother keeps on explaining, but he can't understand because he's allowed so many things on that side, but he isn't allowed on this side, right? Okay, I'm talking about things like excessive screen time or you know, shouting, yelling, things like that, that obviously we've worked years and years with our kids to get them to a certain level. So with my nephew, my brother had to sometimes just remove him from the whole situation, but he would be so excited, so happy to finally be with all of his cousins. So we'd have to move him to one side and we'd have to talk to him. And it would take time. It takes a lot of time, energy, effort. But as long as we explained to him, then he understood and he would rejoin the group and happily play for hours and have no problem. But it was just that reminder that we have to do. It's like a reminder, like, hey, you know, this is how we do, you know, this is how we behave. Sometimes the kids learn this at school a lot, right? They go to school and they act perfectly and they sit in a line, you know, stand in a line, sorry. They sit on the floor with their legs crossed nice and neatly. They're quiet while the teacher's explaining, okay? These are all learned behaviors, and they're because the teacher reinforces this positively. So she says, well done, I'm so happy with you, well done, Emaan, you sat nicely today. So because Emaan's sitting nicely, then, you know, Sharose will sit nicely as well, right? Okay, so it's this kind of thing that's learned behavior. And then when you go to parents' evening, they say, wow, your child is amazing, they follow all the rules. And you look at them like, huh? Are you talking about my kid? My kid follows the rules. Wait. Are you sure? You know, I used to say to them, are you sure? It's Miriam. Miriam spelled with a Y. Miriam C, right? You know, so in terms of like behavior, you know, it's like I said, they've got to learn it. It's got to be reinforced. You have to be very consistent with it. So, for example, you can't accept yelling and shouting one day, and then the next day you know, are like, no, everyone has to be silent. Yeah, you can't do that. You have to have the idea that you have to be consistent. So if you're wanting a certain level of quietness in the house, then you have that same certain level of quietness throughout, right? And if you say to them that there's rules, so can you just give me 1 second, sisters? Because I can see my hijab is showing the top bit of my hair and it's really frustrating me. And I just want to fix it. So apologies. Okay, that's better. Right. Okay, so how do you talk to a child who shouts sometimes? Okay, so a child that shouts comes into this idea of the zones of your house, right? So for example, downstairs, the living room is kind of like a place where everyone can relax and be themselves. Sometimes they play games down here. Sometimes, you know, they are running about, especially if it's not good weather outside to go outside. So we all kind of know that downstairs is like a loud space. So if the kids want to have some quiet time, they know that they have to go upstairs to get that quiet space, to get that quiet time. Yeah. So that's the first thing. The second thing, when a child shouts, you need to think about, why are they shouting? What's the reason? So if it's they shout sometimes, that means that something might have happened to them, or something's affecting them that's making them shout at that moment. right? So we'll come back to that in a second, but I just want to keep with the zones for a second. Okay, so like I said, you have an area of your house where anything goes. You can be as loud as you want. Now, if you don't have an area in your house that they can be as loud as they want, they can go outside, they can go to the park and let them be loud for a couple of hours. You know, even if it's just a quick walk around the block, right, to get rid of that excessive energy. Because again, I don't know where most of you sisters are from, but in the UK, a lot of the houses are terraced, so they're very close to each other. So, you know, in my parents' house and at my in-laws' house, the kids had to, you know, there were certain times of the day that we had to keep them quiet because you're literally next door, the walls are attached to the next house, right? Okay, whereas at my sister's house, because she's got the detached house, it's not attached to any houses, they could be as loud as they wanted day or night, right? So again, they had to learn that at Nanny's house, we have to be quiet. So after 10 o'clock, you know, at 10 o'clock at night would be like quiet time, everyone, you know, so the games go quieter. They were still able to stay awake because it's, you know, it's holidays. We couldn't really reinforce like a hugely you know, sleeping time, very early sleeping time, because literally the whole house was awake at night, right? So in terms of again, with the rules, they had to do quiet activities, reading books, talking to each other, maybe watching a movie, or quiet board games, right? So again, you give them the idea that in this time you can be loud and in this time you can be quiet, right? So then that helps them to kind of get used to the environment. And again, you have to be consistent. If you allow them to be so noisy one day, but the next day you're insisting on absolute silence, you're going to find it really, really hard. Close the door properly, Solomon. Sorry, he's just coming in and out of the door. Okay, so with what was I going to say? I forgot now. Yeah, so what you need to do, like I said, is be consistent. Okay, so when you're consistent with your discipline, then it means that the children remind each other. So they'll say to each other, hey, it's 10 o'clock, shh, right? You don't have to do it. They'll police each other and they'll tell you, they'll say, Mom, look, it's 10 o'clock. And, you know, Suleiman's still being noisy, right? So it gives you, don't worry, sisters, I'm going to get to your questions in a second. Yeah. So in terms of your children, they will actually tell each other that you need to be quiet, it's the late time, it's an early time, right? So they will enforce those rules for you because they know that you are being consistent. Does that make sense? I hope that helps you guys understand what I mean by that. When you have a child that shouts sometimes, that may be because, you know, they're trying to basically get your attention. Yeah. So trying to get the mother's attention, sometimes my kids have to be like, Mom, did you hear me? You know, and they really, you know, I wouldn't say that they shout aggressively. So I'm not sure, Sister Tola, if you mean like aggressive shouting or just shouting to get your attention. But my kids do that. And what they've learned to do, and I guess what you could teach your children to do, is ask you to repeat it. So they ask me, they say, Mom, did you hear me? And I'll say yes. And they'll say, what did I say? And then I have to tell them what they said. And that actually does mean that I've heard them, because usually I'll be doing something, but I will be able to listen to whatever they need from me. But sometimes they'll tell me something and I won't have any idea because they haven't checked with me if I've heard them. So then that means that, you know, whatever the thing is that they told me, it may be that they wouldn't be able to do it, right? So for example, you know, they've, oh Mom, I put my clothes in the dryer, can you please make sure that they're ironed for the morning, or something like that, right? So again, I have to repeat that, and I tell them to make me repeat it so that I've definitely registered. So then that means before I go to bed, I'll make sure the clothes are out, ironed and ready for them in the morning. Does that make sense? I hope that helps. And with a child that shouts, again, If they're shouting for attention, if they're shouting to make sure you've heard them, okay, there are different kind of answers to it. But if they're shouting aggressively, as in, they're always shouting at their brothers and sisters, or they're always, then you need to do some exercises with them to help them feel seen, heard, and understood. So again, sometimes the little ones, I feel, will shout at the older ones because they feel like, nobody understands them. They'll feel like, I have to shout in this house to make myself heard because, mashallah, there's a few of us. And if I don't shout, nobody's going to hear me, right? Okay, so in terms of that, then that might be one of the things that they shout for. Is this helping, Sister Tola, at all? Shouting at a brother to do something like close the door. Yeah, so again, with this, we have another strategy, which is indoor voices, right? So again, that's another thing to remind them, indoor voices. So we say to them, when you're outside, you can be loud as you want. When you're inside, we have to be quiet. So we have a special voice for inside. So although the downstairs, like I said to you, is kind of a free-for-all, they can make noise and everything, it's still up to a certain level. If they get too loud, obviously we have to then intervene and remind them we do have neighbors, and so on, the rest of it. Yeah, okay. Where the child is using a loud voice all the time, again, I struggle with this because I am technically a loud person. So with my family, everyone's always reminded me to be quiet, you don't have to be so loud. But me and my little sister, we're just like loud generally. So again, it helps with just reminding people that, listen, you just got to be quiet. And like I said to you, sometimes I get super excited, sometimes I get really like interested in what I'm talking about, and I forget. Even me, I'm an adult and I forget that I've got to be quiet, or I forget the time. So again, because you've developed it in your children so much that we've got indoor voices, or we've got certain times that we need to be quiet, then it reminds you because they'll remind you as well. Yeah, inshallah, hope that helps. And yeah, the neighbors are attached in the UK said that. Yeah, I'm gonna read yours in a second, Sister Salia. So Sister Sahara said that she can relate to this because she's a single mom and the children have completely different rules regarding screen time, sweets and chocolates. Yeah. I think you're talking about when I was mentioning about my nephew. Yeah, these are all things that are really sometimes difficult for children from, homes where the parents are not living together, sometimes really struggle with. But again, if you're consistent with your rules and you keep on reinforcing your rules at your home, then you can make sure that they can assimilate to your rules. And I know one of my friends used to have this, she used to call it transition time. So if we were there and the kids had come from their dads, so usually they come on a Sunday afternoon, and if I was there or whatever, because like I said to you before, we live in an expat community, so everyone's outside of each other's houses, inside each other's houses. But what she used to do was transition time. So as soon as they come in, they're all hyper because they've been out, they've been, they've had loads of screen time. They're like really like I would say like hyper and really active. And what she would have is she would have mindfulness coloring activities on the table with the colors, with everything ready to go. So as soon as they come in, they've got this routine of just coming in and like slowly calming themselves down and calming them down at the, so that now they're with their mum, now they can be a little bit more calmer, and now they're not so excited, and and they've kind of got this transition period from their dad's rules to their mum's rules, and that sometimes really does work really well. Okay, so I'm just going to read this sister. So Sister Salia said, how to discipline a 7-year-old boy who hits, bites, punches in the stomach, scratches his parents and sisters. I think I've been too kind, too lenient and forgiving, which led to an increase in his bad behavior. And now it happens every day. His sister's busy doing homework and he wants to play with her. So he starts hitting her. He wants to eat something and I don't give it to him. And he hits me. And today his sister was watching the videos and he wanted to do scratch. So she didn't give the computer and he punched her in the stomach. Yeah. And then he pledged yesterday that he will control himself. And then today he did control himself, but then after he didn't. Okay. So this child is around 7 years old. So to be honest with you, it will take a long time to relearn the behavior that is acceptable and isn't acceptable. So I would like to take a bit more time on this, but I'm not sure how much time we have for a longer answer. But just for like a brief introduction, and if you want later on, sister, I'll give you my number and you can just send me a WhatsApp and we can talk a little bit more. Yeah. Okay. But talking about the behavior, which is biting, hitting, punches in the stomach. Yeah. Okay. These are obviously behaviors that we don't want, right? Okay. So what we need to do is we need to reinforce the positive behavior. So right now I'm looking at this and I see that mashallah at the end he was about to bite you, but he didn't bite you. So you praised him. So you said, well done, you didn't bite me, that's excellent, you controlled yourself. So what you do is you reinforce the positive behavior. So you keep on telling them, well done, excellent, give them hugs, give them, you might have a star chart, a sticker chart on the board, on a wall, where every time he has, at the moment, it looks like he won't even last a full day without biting or hitting or lashing out. So maybe even if you do it by morning, afternoon and evening, so he could get up potentially 3 stickers a day as long as he doesn't do this behavior. Yeah. Okay. So you look at the time, so sort of let's say 8 to 12 noon. I'm talking about when you're at home, right? Obviously, if he's at school, it's a different timing. But let's say 8 to 12, he didn't bite anyone. So you look at the time and go, wow, well done. Okay, he gets a sticker. And then you do it again, 12 till about 4 or 5. The same thing, if he doesn't do it, he gets a sticker. If he does do it, he doesn't get a sticker. You don't give a lot of negative feedback. He just doesn't get a sticker. It's not like he gets a gold one because he's good and a red one because he's bad, because again that gives them the wrong idea. So we want them to keep on reinforcing that positive behavior. So hopefully it will take time. I'm not going to say that it's going to happen in one morning for sure, or one day, maybe over the course of a month. If you're consistent, eventually you'll see that from the beginning of the month to the end, the sticker chart will be more full of stickers. At the beginning of the month, there won't be hardly any stickers in there. You might be lucky if you get 1 a day, right? But what will happen is slowly, the idea will get into him, and it takes 6 weeks to make up a habit. So it will take at least 6 to 7 weeks to break a habit as well. Yeah. So inshallah, hopefully that helps you. That's just obviously on the lashing out. The other thing is to help him to understand the time of like we can't give them attention all the time, like straight away, right? Okay, so for example, sometimes I'll be writing an email to somebody, and I know that email is going to take me another 10 minutes. Yeah, so I look at the clock and I say, Suleiman, you see the clock, the hand on the clock now is on 5, the minute hand. Okay, when that minute hand is on 7, I'll talk to you. Yeah, so they've got a time and they know that they're going to wait 10 minutes. And then at that point, apologies, they're just getting excited over there. So they've got 10 minutes. Okay, and within those 10 minutes, you quickly finish whatever task it is. And then dead on that time, you then say to them, right, what was the question? Yeah, even if your thing is going to take you 15 minutes because you've told them 10 minutes. After that 10 minutes, turn to them and give them your full attention, look at them, give them eye contact, and give them that, the feeling that you are definitely listening to them. And then, sometimes I say to them, is it a quick thing or a long thing? Right? So if they say it's a quick thing, then I'll just look at them and say, what is it? Right? If it's something that takes longer, or sometimes they'll tell me and I'll say, you know what, can you give me this much time? And then I'll come back to them. Does that make sense? So again, they don't know how to tell the time, some of them, obviously, especially kids younger than 7, but they do know their numbers. They do know which one's the big hand and the little hand on the clock. So you can use that. Yeah. Sometimes it's even easier on the digital clocks, but sometimes it's a bit more difficult. But on a digital clock, sometimes you can tell them when it's like 12:00, or you say right now it's 1:50, and at 2:00, that's when I'll talk to you. But I think the digital clocks are a little bit more tricky with that one. Yeah. Sister Salia, you continued asking if you should go for timeout, where you lock yourself in the room, leaving him alone in the passage. Okay, so, right, so with timeout, it really only works, I would say, at a younger age. Yeah, okay, because what happens now with the timeout is that the feelings of loneliness and isolation are going to really set in with that child. Yeah. So the fact that he's feeling lonely and isolated at that time is really gonna, affect him more. Right. So and even with younger children, with timeout, I know people say, leave them in a room by themselves, and I really don't go with that. What I do go with is a naughty step, or the naughty area. So wherever I am, I'll put them in a corner and I'll make them sit down, and but I'm not far away. I don't go anywhere. I sit nearby, right? Because I'm still there. I'm still their mom. I still love them. I still want them to know that they're not, like I'm not really, I don't think that they're bad. I don't think that they're disgusting, but I just want them to know that they've done something wrong. Yeah. So for example, like you said, where he's bitten somebody, if he was around 2-3 years old, first time they bite, you tell them, hey, don't bite. Second time they bite, you pick them up and you put them on the side and you make them stay there. They'll keep on trying to move away, but you put a timer on your phone. That's, if they're 3 years old, you put a 3-minute timer and they have to sit for 3 minutes. And usually that works with my kids. What happens is that you do it, maybe, I think I've only really reinforced it probably maximum 2 or 3 times with my kids, because they really don't like that feeling of being in the corner. So if I just say to them, if you haven't done that, if you do that, you're going on the naughty step, or you're going in the naughty corner, or I'm going to make you sit in that corner, yeah, then they actually no, oh my God, it's like the worst thing that can ever happen to them. I know that sounds really weird, but it's like they really don't want to do it. So they will make sure that they behave in the correct way that I want them to. Does that make sense? Yeah, because they're that young. But when they're a bit older, leaving them alone in a certain place, it brings in other kind of feelings of abandonment, isolation, fear, which then doesn't really help to reinforce the positive behavior that you want, Sister Salia. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. In terms of, will it impact him the wrong way? If that's the way that he's used to it, then possibly he'll be still okay. But I think from now on, go with the positive reinforcement. Yeah. So for example, they wake up in the morning, with my Suleiman, he has this thing about crying in the morning, and it's really, really frustrating as a parent, because you know, it's like, what are you actually crying for? And sometimes he can't even understand, like he can't even tell me why he's crying. So later on in the afternoon, when I say we had a good time at school or whatever, you know, and he comes back and he's in a good mood, and I say to him, why were you crying? He can't tell me. It's just that he's got this, I don't know, like a reaction to waking up, which involves crying. But it took a long time. But we then, with that positive reinforcement, he gets a stick every day, he doesn't cry, or he gets a lollipop every day, he doesn't cry. All of these things, they gradually they do come off. It might take a month to 6 weeks to 2 months. Some kids might take longer, right? Some kids might learn earlier. It just depends on them, inshallah. Oh, Sister Salia said, as I'm listening to you, I locked myself in because he was beating me. And when I opened the door, he came and said, look, I've cleaned the hole for you. Okay, this is another real a trait of these kids, because he wants to please you. You see, so he knows that he's done something wrong, and now he wants to do something good for you. He wants to please you. So I think, Sister Salia, if you go with the positive reinforcement, this will really help, inshallah. Yeah. Okay, so going back, I've got another couple of questions here, so I'm just going to go back. Sorry, sisters, I took quite a long time on that one. I try to make it fast. Okay, so my two sons, so this is Sister Madiha. My two sons, one is age 11, one is age 6, and they're constantly fighting and arguing, and I have to constantly remind them to be nice to each other. So literally they fight all day long. And I work in early childhood, and I've worked with many children and managed their behaviors. But when it comes to my own, I feel like I'm just failing. Okay, so to be honest, a lot of parents do feel like this. I mean, it's the same thing with me. Like you know, Sister Sabri told you guys before that I've got over, I think you read my old bio, because that I wrote a couple of years ago, but now, mashallah, I've got 18 years of experience of teaching and learning. And I think I've told you guys before as well, one of the students, you know, not one of, but a few of my students say to me, Miss, I wish you were my mum, but my kids are like, huh, you can take her, I don't want her to be my mum, right? Okay, so with your own children, there is a difference, because with your own children, you feel like, I'm so good at dealing with these other kids. What's wrong with me and my kids, right? Okay, so sometimes with your own children, you are either more lenient or more strict than you have to be. Yeah, because, you know, sometimes we're lenient because if you're a working mom, you know, you leave them alone at home, not alone at home, obviously, but, you know, you leave them at home with, you know, another carer, not yourself. If you're a working parent, and you might feel guilty, and that guilt kicks in, and then you know, you want to give them more attention and more love, but then that just makes them spoiled, right? So we're working on this kind of balance of not feeling so guilty, and we're working on a, you know, trying to make sure that we actually really benefit our children, inshallah. Yeah. Okay. So with the ages of your children, mashallah, there is a big gap. So I would say that the 11-year-old and the 6-year-old, because there's a big gap, the 11-year-old should be, you know, you should be, or would be, probably not should be, playing different things than the 6-year-old. And that might be a possibility of why they're constantly fighting and arguing, because the 6-year-old will probably want to play 6-year-old stuff, and the 11-year-old will want to do the 11-year-old stuff. And there's always this constant battle of what shall we do? So in terms of that, I would say that, you know, give them choices, help them, give them ideas of what to do and how to play together, and try some team building activities. Okay, so in team building, if you guys are members of Parenting with Alabama Side, in the summer we shared a lot of activities, and we'll do it again this summer, inshallah. So every day for 60 days, we gave you activities where you can bond with your children
Sorry. Assalamu alaikum. I think there was a problem with Sister Sarah's internet. Hopefully she will be able to join us and finish what she was saying. In the meantime, I will leave you, she was talking about parenting with Allah by my side and the activities that they post. And I will leave you the links here in the chat. So hopefully you can go and you can check their website, their Instagram, and hopefully sign up for their activities as well. Okay, I guess we wait a couple more minutes. And if she can't join us again. Well, she will be here next, not next, on Sunday with Sister Iram as well, same time, 11 a.m. UK time. So if you had a question or if she was answering your questions and you couldn't hear the rest, she's gonna be able to answer then, inshallah. Can you let me know in the chat if probably it's my internet or hers? Can you hear me okay? Okay, thank you. I guess it's her internet problem. Thank you very much for insightful session. Thank you to all of you for attending. I know you're all are busy in this time of Ramadan, so everyone's busy, and thank you for taking your time to be here. Okay, I don't think she will be able to join us. And also like her session is 1 hour. So hopefully, if you had a question, please remember to join us on Sunday. She will be here again with Sister Iram as well. And whoever question it was that was cut off, just like as we started the meeting, please remind me, and I will be able. I will tell her to finish what she was saying. Thank you for all of you. Don't forget we have the kids session today at 6 p.m. UK time. So hopefully we will see all your kids there. And on Tuesdays, we have the session with Sister Reba, same time. For the moms, it's always same time. And on Wednesdays with Sister Mariam. Thank you to everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Yes, this is available for any mom to join. Just send her the link or probably tell, oh, okay, Sister Sarah's here. Send her the link and tell her like to join our Facebook group to get all the notifications or the mailing list. And hopefully she will get the reminders for the meetings as well. Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum.
Oh, Sister Sarah's here. I was just about to end it, so.
I'm so sorry, everybody. I really apologize.
Don't worry.
I don't know what happened. The internet just literally cut out. I don't know if one of my kids just went up and did something, but anyway, I'm back. I'll just quickly finish this answer and then I'll go. And please, sisters, if there's any other questions, please do send them to me on my WhatsApp, or just actually you can message, you can put the questions in Facebook if you like on the group that we've got. Or you can just send them on WhatsApp, because I feel bad because obviously we've wasted 5 minutes of me reconnecting back to the internet. Anyway, what will really help you, inshallah, is to work as a team together, okay? And what you can do is you can do activities like the human knot. So like I said, 5 of you stand sort of in a circle, you all grab each other's hand, but you don't grab like, you know, on the same side, you just cross your hands over and grab different hands, and then you keep hold of the hands and you have to try to get yourself out of that situation, right? And again, because you're working together, you're trying to get yourself out of a situation and you're working together, it helps that team building aspect. Yeah. Okay. Other different ideas are really simple, you know, building a den with them, going outside, making an obstacle course. And again, what you're doing is you're nurturing the bond between the siblings, and you're nurturing the bond between the kids and yourself as well. So when everyone feels like they have that quality time, usually they won't feel like they need to harass the other sibling to get their attention. Does that help? Hopefully, inshallah. I hope that helps, inshallah. I know I had a few more questions about sibling rivalry, but a lot of the sibling rivalry can really be, I would never say it's eliminated, because even, you know, as the kids get older, it might not be eliminated completely, but what you can do is give them strategies to work together. And I think on Sunday's live, we talked a lot about role play. Do you guys remember we talked about role play? So again, role play will help a lot in these situations. So where, for example, one sibling is using the computer, the other one wants it, okay, so we practice taking turns. So it's literally like, you know, look at the time again, give them that visual reminder. Anything that's a visual reminder really helps kids, especially if they're age under 10, that it gives them like something to see. So in our Ramadan challenge, we said to have a prayer area in your house. Again, it's a visual reminder. It doesn't have to be those fancy Pinterest kind of things with a lovely, you know, masjid and everything that you've seen people do. It doesn't have to be like that. Just a little corner of your house where you've laid out the prayer mats and nobody puts them away, and it just stays like that for a long time. Then inshallah, that will help to, you know, again, create that bond and a visual reminder for prayer time. And the kids will be excited. They'll be like, oh, I'm going to the masjid to go pray. Again, that really helps them, inshallah. Yes, subhanallah, sorry. I think you guys know that I can talk forever if I need to. So I'm going to stop there, inshallah. If you have any more questions, please do let us know. Just send us messages. You've got all our links there. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and I've just put my WhatsApp number there if anyone would like to WhatsApp me further with any other questions. Sister Anjum, assalamu alaikum, welcome. The recordings, are they available after Ramadan? I'm not sure. Sister Sabri, are they?
The recordings are available like the next day. So I sent her on private the link. I'll send it again for everyone. The recording even for the kids session and the mom sessions as well.
Fantastic, that's brilliant, inshallah. Yeah, okay, so inshallah you guys can see the recordings, and jazakallah khair so much for coming, and inshallah we'll like to see you guys on Parenting with Alabama side and Iman Power again next time on Sunday, inshallah, same time. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much, Sister Sarah, for taking your time to be here with us today, and see you next Sunday,
inshallah. I know I get confused as well.
Yeah, I was about to say next week.
Walaikum salam, sisters, and you're all really welcome. Wa iyyakum. Assalamu alaikum. Bye.